Okay guys, welcome to another lesson in Adobe Illustrator. If you haven't done so already, you're going to create a new file and get into Illustrator. You'll notice when you're in Illustrator, you will see that it says Illustrator in the upper corner of your screen. If you are not in Illustrator or you're in a different program, it's going to say something else there. So that's one way to find out if things aren't working properly for you. Of course, I'm on a Mac, so whenever I say I'm going to be using the Command key, you're going to use the Control key if you're on a PC. So today is another introductory lesson. In our toolbox, we are going to be looking at the shape tools. Now, in Illustrator, you will notice that there is here a rectangle tool. And you'll also notice that a lot of these toolboxes have a little fly out marker in the corner here, and this is a whole now compartment of tools. So you have rectangle and rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygon, and star tool. So in this one toolbox, you will find this bunch of tools here. Now I'm going to just start off using the rectangle tool. So when I click and hold on the tool in the toolbox, you will see the rectangle tool. And I'm going to make sure I have that. If you open this and you were using it before, you might show ellipse tool. So make sure you switch back to the rectangle tool. And the rectangle tool is going to work pretty much the way you'd expect it to. When you click and drag on your screen, it'll create a rectangle. This box that's around it, this is my bounding box, and this is a preset that pops up. If I don't have my bounding box on, your tool is going to look like this. So I'm going to go under View, and this is where you would toggle this on. And there's a key command for it, which I didn't know, which is Shift Command B, but that's okay. I'm just going to click on that. So you may, when you first draw it, it may just look like this, or when you finish drawing it, it may, when it's selected, look like this. Now, I do want to show bounding box. So if you don't have it on, go to the View from the drop down at the top of the screen, and you're going to go down to Show Bounding Box. And now you will see that there's more tools here. And what this allows you to do is once you drew the rectangle, you can go outside the corner and you can rotate it. Or if you need to scale it, you could do that as well. So it allows you to kind of do some of the things you would do with a selection tool right here while you're still in the shape tool. And when you're done manipulating that, you can go and draw another one. Notice these are all being drawn with a small black stroke, and they are filled with white. Okay, if it wasn't filled with white, if it goes off the side of the screen, you'll see that it's white here. If it was on the screen and wasn't filled with white, it's going to look basically the same because the paper behind it is white, the artboard is white. So that's how you use the rectangle tool. One other thing I want to show you, so I'm going to actually select all of these by hitting Command A or Control A if you're on a PC, and hitting delete to get rid of all those. So delete on the keyboard to get rid of them. I do want to show you a different way. Now notice it is drawing from the upper corner of the shape. So every time I click and drag, it's drawing it from the upper corner. If you want to draw from the center, which sometimes you might want to do that to fit it in someplace as you're working on something, you would need to hold the Option key. And notice now when I hold the Option key, the cursor on the screen actually changes and gives you these little brackets around the outside of the pointer. So now when I click and drag, notice I'm clicking and dragging, and it's beginning from the center point rather than from a corner. Okay, so that is the Option key on the keyboard, allows you to change that. Every time you draw a shape, it is getting drawn on top of the other shapes. So we will go through how to arrange these and send these backwards and shuffle these up like a deck of cards in another lesson. So for now, I just want to go through the shape tool. So I'm going to select all of these, and I'm going to hit delete. And notice I went back to the selection tool, which we talked about in an earlier lesson, to get rid of that stuff. Okay, I'm going to use rounded rectangle really quick. And rounded rectangle is very similar. If you click and drag, you will notice that the corners of the object are rounded. And you can change how rounded they are by clicking on these little target signs here that are inside of each corner. When I drag those in, you can see the roundness of that change. You can also just click once on your screen, and you can actually be very specific with how much of a radius you want to put on there. Remember, a point is a unit of measure equal to 1/72 of an inch. So it's a very small unit of measure. 72 points, it would be 1 inch. So if I typed in 72 right here and I clicked, now when this prints, it would be a 1 inch radius. So the distance from this point to anywhere on this arc is 1 inch. Okay. That can also be done inside the rectangle tool. So if you're in the rectangle tool, as we were before, and you click and drag, you will notice these targets here, and that you can manipulate how round the corners are with all that. So any point where two lines come together and that form a straight angle can be manipulated that way. Okay? All right, now we're going to move on to the ellipse tool. And when you click and drag with the ellipse tool, it works the same way. If I want to click and drag from center, I can hold Option. If you want it to be a perfect circle, you would need to hold the Shift key. The Shift is a constraining tool. So I right now am holding the Option key because I drew this from the center, and the Shift key to keep it a circle. Make sure you let go of your mouse before you let go of the keys. If you don't do that in the right sequence, you will end up probably with an ellipse or something that is very close to being a circle, but not quite. So you have to make sure you hold that Shift key all the way to the end, because if I let go of this, you can see how that just shifted in there, and you'll be surprised at how quickly someone can pick up that something is actually not perfectly round. And we'll move on now to Polygon Tool. Polygon Tool, you can click and drag and it'll draw a polygon. Usually the first time you use it, it defaults to a 6-sided hexagon. And I'm going to hold Shift key, and you can see that it constrains it to being a flat bottom. So if you actually wanted the hexagon to be up on its pointer, you would have to let go, and then you could rotate it. Hold Shift when you rotate, and that will lock it into a 90-degree rotation, and it'll end up right on its point. If you need more points on a polygon, when you click and drag, you can, this is kind of fun, you can hold the up or down arrow on the keyboard. If you're just going to make a few modifications, you can hold up or down arrow. You can do this right down to a triangle. Holding Shift will make it perfect. You can round off the triangle by clicking on a little button there. So there's a lot you can do to get like an interesting shape really quickly. The other thing you can do is, if you just click once with the tool, you can tell it how big you want this, you know, what size you want it and all that kind of stuff. And when I click at an 11-sided polygon. Star tool works pretty much the same way. You can almost do a whole video on just the star tool, because there's so many different key commands. So I'll let you guys fool around with that. When you first use the star tool, it is going to be a slightly more cartoony version of this star. So how I got to this kind of purely geometric star is I held the Option key, and that will make it perfectly geometric. Otherwise, it's kind of a cartoony bubble star, which you can get to by holding, while I'm clicking and dragging, check this out, I can hold the Command key to extend the arms out, or I can make them a little bit shorter. So this is probably about the star that you would normally default with when you first start drawing. So now when I click and drag on this, if I want it to be a regular star, I'm just going to hold the Option key. Shift keeps it straight. If you want to add points to it, hit up arrow. Take away points, down arrow. Command will extend the arms on that. So there's a lot of things with the star tool. Flare tool, you guys can play with that. I would not use it. It's kind of silly. I'll let you discover that on your own. Never really used that for anything in my life, but it is kind of cool to look at. Just be warned, if you start drawing flare tools all over your screen, it's a pretty complicated shape, and it's potentially could crash your computer or slow down everything on your screen because there's so many points involved in that. So there you go. There's the basic shape tools all wrapped up into about a 10-minute lesson. Thanks for listening, and we'll go over some more tools tomorrow.